as we continue to kind of rewrite that inner narrative, this is really going to be about kind of coming up with the statements that help empower us. And, we've talked a lot about how our beliefs shape our self-perception and our potentials. We'll dive into that a bit. Freedom isn't about finding yourself. It's about unlearning who you were told to be. And just ask kind of this question about, is unlearning possible? So rather than getting rid of something, maybe freedom can be expanding your repertoire. And he thinks that, has experiences of relapses of previous thoughts or actions that aren't failures, but actually quite useful signs to, again, embrace the now and go through another process of expanding one's repertoire. And yeah, I think this is like really helpful to talk about, because it's a little bit, to me, what I mean by unlearning who you were told to be is, it's not unlearning everything and getting rid of all those things, but it's kind of like spending that moment to go, hey, what's serving me, what's not serving me? And kind of the analogy I use a lot that works for me is kind of like, hanging out and looking in the mirror, whether that's literally standing in front of the mirror or using the figurative mirror, using what's happening in our lives as a reflection to look at what's going on. Use the wording that allows you to push a little bit. Like we said, the optimal has been studied over and over, and it's like 20 to 30% from your baseline, whatever the hell that means. But if you're not feeling a little uncomfortable, you're probably not pushing hard enough. But if you're feeling really uncomfortable and overwhelmed, maybe you're pushing too much. So I think that these are, really good things to think about. And then just thinking about embracing difficult feelings. One perspective is that all feelings and actions are somehow have a positive intention, and that things that are seen as quote unquote negative could serve a purpose, even if the consequences might be more dramatic. And I definitely think that the negative feelings are like an old friend to me. They're great. When I had the negative come up, man, I'm like, it's almost like where I said, getting in touch with my inner energy body. Whenever I got to a stop sign, and then it was, a stoplight, sorry. And then it was a stop sign. And then it was anytime I saw the color red, like the little stop share button, on the Zoom thing, I just use it as a trigger. So I use these negative patterns that I've examined, and I say, oh, this one's coming back up. I use that as that's where I use the term the mirror. I want to stand in front of that and go, hey, old friend, what are you here to teach me? And that's why we do some of these things to, because it's to me, it's not really positive or negative. And I go back to what some of the Shipibo shamans in Peru talk about. Trauma is negative energy that's stuck in the body. But the problem, like I mentioned before, is not that it's negative energy. It's the stuck energy. So positive or negative to me are just ways we evaluate something. Almost like, hey, this has a positive charge, that has a negative charge. But if you don't have both, it's like day and night. You don't have both, you're not able to see. You don't know what light is if you've never seen dark. And if you didn't have contrast in colors, it would just all be bright white, and you would essentially see nothing, as if it were black. So you could certainly look at that and really just kind of break it down and say hey, some pain is just physical pain. It's just literally the body reacting to it. So my question is, when I have pain, am I adding too much to it? So recently, an example for me is, I may have mentioned, I was out skiing with friends. It was one of the few really, 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 really good ski days we've had this season. And did a little drop over a tree, and then I went to do a jump that we had all done 5 times before. But I was super excited, got a little out of control, basically because I didn't speed check and slow down. So the drop over the tree was beautiful. It's one of my favorite things. But I did this jump, and I'm up in the air, my left knee's next to my eyeball, my right leg's dangling off to the side. And I'm like, this is not going to go well. I mistimed the pop at the end. And sure enough, I land and go, and I body checked the ground with my left shoulder. I'm no longer in my 20s. I wasn't wearing my hockey gear, and didn't feel too good. And it just got worse and worse. And so when I ended up, irritating my AC joint and then all the muscles around it. And what was really interesting though, it's I know I did it. I did it when I was having fun. It's kind of part of what comes with it. I was a little irritated for a while. But then it kind of got better and worse, better for worse, better and worse, and all this other stuff. And then I just literally was like, then it started to spread to the other side. And it actually started to open up a lot of the stuff on the other side that's been stuck since I've had some accidents in high school and college. And I was like, wow, this hurts, but it's opening up something else. So I went from, I'm not supposed to be hurting, to, wow, this is actually opening up something different. But then it's like, as all that kind of settled out, then it just started hurting again more. And I was like, it's like I'm doing more, the more work I do on it now, it's just like, now that I'm opening up everything and redoing it, it's hurting a lot. And I'm like, it's interfering with what I want to do. But I just said, hey, that's par for the course. And I will admit, it's been very hard to not be mad that it kind of got worse, but it happens. What's one limiting belief that you can then reframe into an empowering belief? So the example is, I'm not good enough to start on a new path, and I'm constantly evolving and capable of change, right? So it's not saying anything about the path. It's just saying, like, what might be the thing in this first statement that's holding you back, and you come up with another way to do that. And to me, this is an empowering statement, because part of it is, who knows what that really means, other than evolving means you're open and able to change. And, and theoretically evolving should be, a more positive thing, but you could, so that's always good. And then the capable of change is reinforcing the fact that you're evolving. So that's one option there. And then really just maybe combine the beliefs that come up in this session and create a personal empowerment statement. And the example I use is just like, trust myself to follow what lights me up, knowing that my growth is limitless. I kind of like that one. It might not work for you, but you could even say, I trust that I'm constantly evolving and capable of change.